Hi folks, welcome to your latest mwis planning outlook in association with Ellis Brigham. Now the rest of this week we'll see a very similar weather pattern to what we're seeing at the moment, some very warm and humid conditions across the country, that warmth becoming increasingly extensive into west and northwest Scotland as well in the days ahead. There's a low risk of an isolated thunderstorm through the middle of the week, the Pennines and Wales the greatest risk of those. The wind will strengthen in southern regions late in the week, and that starts to usher in a change for the weekend and beyond. Not a great deal to see on these charts in the next few days. Then here's Wednesday. High pressure is parked toward the north. It's generally a very slack pressure pattern, so light winds across the country as a whole. Extensive strong sunshine. Some low-level fog banks, though, will be around, particularly in the morning for eastern regions of Scotland into central parts of the Highlands too, and also maybe extending inland from the North Sea towards Pennine areas as well. Now, higher mountain summits generally above the fog layer, so an inversion condition is in place, and all that low-level fog and mist will tend to clear and fade and move back toward the North Sea coast as the morning goes on. So lots of strong sunshine and some very warm and humid conditions again. A chance of one or two pop-up showers forming around Pennines and Wales as the day goes on. Now, treated with a degree of caution, this just a run through the day on Wednesday as we just watch for that risk of some storms popping up, most of them more likely around the East Midlands, the home counties, but the odd one may just fire up around the Pennines and also across Mid and South Wales through the afternoon. Very isolated, they'll move around slowly with not much wind, so if you do catch rain, you could catch a downpour that lasts for quite a while and the risk of some thunder and lightning, but the vast majority of the mountain regions of Britain will avoid these altogether. We're going to do a very similar sort of day on Thursday. If anything, the temperature rising further across the west and northwest of Scotland, just as the drift of air comes a bit more from the southeast and ushers some of that warmth further northwards by this stage. Again, the risk of some low cloud and some fog across more eastern and central parts of Scotland and around the northeast of England early in the morning will thin and break once again. The higher tops generally above this, and it's a day of strong sunshine and once again the risk of some isolated showers. As we run through into Thursday afternoon, the modelling just highlights the risk of showers forming a bit more readily over mid-Wales, around the Pennines, maybe even into the Lake District. This needs watching very carefully because it will be at the mercy of subtle variations in the very light winds, but it just highlights that risk again of some showers forming and maybe just a little bit further west than what they were on Wednesday, but these could be very, very isolated and hardly any form, but just watch out for that risk of a local downpour or thunderstorm. Now there are some changes developing by Friday, and it's all tied into low pressure that's just developing around the Bay of Biscay and a front that's starting to encroach northwards. This will result in a strengthening easterly wind for Wales and the South Pennines, and maybe some very gusty conditions across the hills of South Wales through Friday daytime, maybe the risk of gales in a few spots in gusty conditions around some passes and higher summits across Mid and South Wales. Further north, very light winds as pressure stays slack and it's a generally high pressure situation. So again, lots of sunshine, some mist and murk maybe at low levels first thing, that will thin and break, and then it's another very warm and humid day. A low risk of an isolated shower, maybe North Wales, not quite as much risk as previous days with that stronger wind generally not helping showers to form. We do, though, watch for some rain coming up from the south into South Wales late on Friday, which could turn heavier and more persistent as that frontal system begins to push further northwards. Now, it's that rather messy feature of weather that is going to be the story into Saturday for the southern half of Britain. Low pressure is nearer to us, various bits of fronts and instability rotating around it, so there will be some areas of rain and the risk of some thundery downpours embedded within that as well. Exactly how far north that gets at the moment is uncertain. We're expecting it to be around for Wales, possibly into the Peak District. Further north up the Pennines becomes a lower risk, and across Scotland and the Lake District, more chance of staying dry all the way through, with again some very warm sunshine, particularly western Scotland, a low risk of an isolated thundery shower breaking out. Across eastern Scotland, meanwhile, it's that North Sea mist and murk that is likely to have been dragged in, particularly the hills nearest to the coasts, but it may well just be a bit further inland for a time once again. Mostly light winds, but there could still be some gustiness across England and Wales. Still a rather slack, slow-moving weather pattern into Sunday, generally lower pressure than previous days, which brings the risk of some slow-moving bursts of rain and thunderstorms. The greatest risk of these may well be focused on central, south and eastern England, with just more isolated showers popping up further north and west across the British Isles. But there's that risk of some showers nevertheless, and some thundery bursts in places. We'll need to watch just how things move around by this stage. Temperatures just nudging down a little bit, but still rather warm and humid, and it looks as though we've got fairly light winds across most areas. Again, we'll still have that risk of some misty, murky conditions, I think focused more around eastern and northeastern regions, with that drift of air coming in around from the North Sea. Now, to step back and look at the bigger picture as we go onwards into next week, it's a general zone of low pressure then that's in existence across the southern half of the British Isles through this weekend. That just drifting a bit more into the North Sea as we go towards Monday, and the risk of the instability getting to work and some areas of thundery downpours being around as we head into the start of next week a bit more widely, but they could still be rather hit and miss, but just be prepared to see some downpours in the forecast by then. Next week seems as though we're going into more of an Atlantic-driven weather pattern, so a rather fresher feel to things as the airflows are coming in as more westerly types. We might just get a brief ridge of higher pressure come in early in next week, perhaps say Tuesday or Wednesday. Detail though is very sketchy, so just be aware of that at this stage. But the idea that a further zone of low pressure is never too far away, so I think calling next week a rather mixed pattern is perhaps the best way to go, with some rain at times, some heavy showers, maybe the odd thundery burst from time to time, and temperatures typically cooler than what we've been seeing during this week. And that, I think, will be the trend to take us towards the end of the month. As always then, you can stay right up to date with your latest 3-day forecast for your area on the MWis website. That's been your Planning Outlook in association with Ellis Brigham. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.